So my human experience has kind of taught me that when I'm using the ladies' room, I have this really awkward experience. So I'll be standing there washing my hands and someone comes in and they see me and there's just this immediate panic on their face. Like, did I walk in the wrong restroom? I'm not really sure. I think that's a girl. I don't know though. Maybe double check. And my favorite part about this encounter is that when they go, they actually hold the door open as if I can't see that they're looking to see if they read the sign right. But it turns out I am a girl. I identify as an androgynous lesbian. It's really kind of complicated because that's what we are as people, right? So what I've learned is when I tell people that, they ask me 3 questions. So no, I'm not a boy. No, I don't wish I was. And yes, I am 100% sure. So now that I've cleared the air, you can listen to why I'm here, what I'm passionate about. And that's creating a space, an authentic space, so that we can show up and give our best, most meaningful selves, so we can connect in a way that matters. I recently had someone ask me what I did for a living. And when I told him in the briefest, shortest way possible, he kind of looked at me sideways and said, so basically you save people. And in that moment, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, well, no, you can't save people, but you can love them. And so I walk away from this interaction in this montage of all these jobs I've had as a personal trainer, a basketball coach, a camp counselor, all the mission trips I've been on, and this deep root that I've always had of creating this space for people to feel safe and secure with me, so that they could show up and show their best and truest selves. And so what I learned is that even though the platform is constantly changing and constantly evolving, the thing that comes down to it is that we connect through story. What do I mean by that? So at the end of the day, we all have these different circumstances, right? Every single person in here has had different situations, different encounters, you've met different people. But at the core of all that, we all have the same set of human emotions. So fear might look different for you than it does for me, but we both know that experience of being afraid. And so what I learned is when you create a space for people to feel safe, when you allow them to show up and be their truest self, what really happens with people, when you give them this space that you listen without the intent to reply, but listen to show that there is grace and that who they are matters. I work with kids, and what I tell them all the time is you are a walking, breathing miracle. I mean that for everyone, wholeheartedly. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, who you are as a person, your gifts, your weaknesses, your strengths, everything about who you are is not an accident. And you're here right now for a reason. You didn't come in the 1800s, you came now. So what you're doing right now has a purpose. How is that not a miracle to celebrate? And I tell my kids that all the time, you matter. You're a beautiful, walking, breathing miracle. In 2012, I was in church. And the pastor walks out, he's holding 2 bundles of yarn, red yarn. He walks to one side of the congregation, he says, what I want you to do is I want you to take this yarn, I want you to pass it all the way back, make sure everybody touches it. He walks to the other side, gives the same task. He says, you have about 10 minutes sorted out. So at the end of 10 minutes, what he said was, if you're holding that red string, you represent the people that have been touched by faith in some capacity. If you aren't touching that yarn, you represent the people that haven't been touched yet. So if you're holding that red yarn, I want you to find somebody that isn't and hold their hand. So Sunday morning in church, all groggy, I'm holding red string and holding a stranger's hand. I'm like, what is this guy's point, right? But at the end of the sermon, what he said was, sometimes you got to be that bridge. You have to be that person to get somebody to their faith. And at the end of that sermon, he said, I want you all to take a piece of that yarn, and I want you to take it as a reminder to be that bridge, to show up for someone. And so I tied that yarn around my wrist till it literally fell off, and I still carry it with me every single day now. But it's evolved to so much more. For me now, as a representation, if this is authentic truth, how can I be that bridge to get you to that space? How can I give you a space so that you can feel safe, that you feel connected, and that you can show up in a way that matters, right? And so I'm going to show you a picture of a little girl. That's me. My dad loves this one on the right. But the one on the left I find particularly unique. Well, not even unique, but what I think is important about it is if you look at the way kids behave, they're kind of both and, right? They don't care about gender norms. They don't care about what you say they're supposed to be. They like what they like. It's that simple, right? And so for me, that's what this was, is this thing as a kid, as I was trying to figure out this truth inside of me that I had nowhere to go. I didn't have someone being that bridge. Now, in the defense of my parents, they loved me very much. We didn't have the tools and the truth and the navigate that we have now. I didn't know how to figure out what that meant, and every representation I saw was nothing that made any sense to me. I didn't want to wear a dress. It was the worst thing you could tell me I needed to do. It was the worst. And so what I learned is what happens if you don't give someone that space. For 30 years of my life, I wrestled trying to find my truth and trying to find someone that would give me that bridge, that grace. So what happens when you don't give a kid that space? What happens then? When I was in 3rd grade, and this one sticks out really far for me because it's not like it was that much different every year. I asked for a Nerf gun. But for some reason in 3rd grade, this one really sticks out to me. So for Christmas, I would ask for a Nerf gun and I'd never get it. And my birthday shortly thereafter, so I'd be like, maybe this will be the year, right? And so in 3rd grade, I didn't get it for Christmas, and then I had this box sitting on the table for my birthday. And I was thinking, yes, this is finally my time for a Nerf gun. I'm going to shoot my brother up, right? I'm so stoked. But I opened up the gift, and all this joy and excitement was just completely sucked right out of me. And I got a Skipper doll. I didn't even get Barbie. I got like the knockoff, right? But, but the thing is that it wasn't even about the Skipper doll. And I think my parents thought that the tears that came out of my eyes at that moment were because I was ungrateful. But I finally realized 30 years later I wasn't ungrateful. I just needed to be seen. I needed someone to know who I was and to see me for that truth and not try to put me in a box of what's normal for a girl to be or put a timeline on how long she should be a tomboy. So I was trying to find my truth, and I needed someone to do that. Now what's interesting to me is, like I said, I work with kids. And kindergartners are brave. Anybody know about kindergartners? They are brave. They will ask you whatever is on their mind. And so at least once a week with these kids, I have someone come up to me and they're like, are you a boy or a girl? Like real confused. They're like, what's going on here with this girl, right? I tell them, well, I'm a girl. And they're like dumbfounded. Like, why are you dressed like that? Why don't you have long hair? What do you mean you're a girl? Shouldn't you be wearing a dress? And I tell them, well, no, not really. I mean, what are you wearing? Why are you wearing that? Why are you wearing those Jordans? Why is your hair cut like that? Well, because I like it. When I tell them, well, I like this is my truth, you know what's funny? They don't care. They're like, oh, that's cool, and they go off to go do whatever it is they're doing. It's like that simple for them. They don't care. But if you think about us as adults, we're the ones that care, right? But why? Why have we put these parameters on ourselves? Why have we put ourselves in these boxes and labeled that we have to be black or white? We're too complex for all of that. And like I said, it took me 30 years to find my truth, 30 years. So what happened at 30? I was in an interview for a job. Now this is no different than any other job, right? You show up, you're kind of a little bit nervous. But what I realized at 30 is that the nervousness I carried for so many years of my life had nothing to do with real insecurity. It had everything to do with the fear if they knew who I loved, if they knew my real truth, if I showed up the way that I felt mattered, I wouldn't get hired. They wouldn't want me. Now the hindsight of that is, now that I know better, I can do better, right? Maya Angelou says that. So now that I know better, I know that if I show up with my truth and you don't want me, I don't belong there to begin with. I belong somewhere else. I need to be where you are celebrated. Again, we are miracles. Miracles to be celebrated. I believe that wholeheartedly. And if you don't feel like you're in a space that you can show up with your truth to do that, I think you're in the wrong place. Honest. And so what I learned is in this interview, I'm sitting there and I'm wearing these ridiculous kitten heels and these girls' flare-cut pants, because this is before I got to my truth, right? I'm wearing what I'm supposed to wear. Like all my other interviews, I'm showing up. And again, I have this amazing resume, and I've worked hard my whole life, and I know that if it looked at paper, it wouldn't matter. But I don't know if they're going to look at paper. I'm wondering if they're going to look at me. So I don't show up with my truth. I have this outfit that I wear only for special occasions. Because I know if they only see me this first time, I get away with that. Once they see me and they get to know me, they won't care what I wear. They won't care about that anymore. But I'm afraid of that first part, right? For 30 years, I lived this way. Afraid to show up truthfully. And so at 30 years, it's kind of funny now, because my former coworker and I kind of joke about it. She's like, when I talked to you on the phone and what you showed up as was not what I was expecting. I'm like, join the club. This was every interview I ever went on. It was terrible. So I sit in this interview and I know that I have this skill set and I still have this insecurity. Now I get hired for the job. And what happens is that I get hired for a job called Dancing Classrooms. What is Dancing Classrooms? I'm glad you asked. Dancing Classrooms is a social, emotional, and a behavior health program. And I worked in the city of Pittsburgh at the time in public schools. It's only with 5th grade kids, okay? The thing that's amazing about the program is it's all inclusive. It doesn't matter how you identify, what your religion is, your skin color. It doesn't matter if you have a disability, if you're on the spectrum. Everybody in 5th grade goes to this class, everybody. And everybody dances with everybody. You can't skip partners. My favorite is when they try to pull their hands out of their sleeve and they don't want to touch. I'm like, pull your hands out. What are you doing? Like, I don't want to touch. But, so we create this space for them, and that's what I learned in this 5-day training, is to create this space for them to feel safe, so that they can touch each other, And they learn to do it in a way that matters and that they can see each other's truth. You teach these kids integrity and honor and all these things. So I'm excited because, again, my life journey, this evolution that I had, even though it's always changing, has come to this deep desire to give people a space to feel safe, right? Now I get to do it with kids. I'm so excited. So for 5 days, I'm learning how to do this. On the 5th day, we learn how we're supposed to dress. And I'm told I have to dress elegantly. Now, to be honest, in the back of my brain, like, man, I can finally dress like James Bond. I'm so excited, right? Like, I'm thinking maybe I can finally wear that black suit and tie. But they say, no, women can't wear pants. So now I can't even wear the kitten heels that are ridiculous and kind of fake it. I have to wear a dress. And I remember leaving this job and just kind of being devastated. Like, how am I cannot at all. And I remember going home and just kind of literally pacing around my house like, I can't do this. And I called my former or future coworker, and I said to her, you know, I can't take this job. I don't know how I'm supposed to show up for these kids and give them a space where they feel like they matter, tell them that they're miracles, tell them that they should be celebrated and be respectful to each other when I'm not even doing that for myself. How am I supposed to tell them to do that and lead by an example? And the thing is, it was terrifying. For the first time in my life, I said no to everybody else's comforts and yes to me. I stopped sacrificing my truth for someone else's comforts. And you know what happened? Grace caught me. For the first time, someone gave me that bridge. And someone allowed me to have my truth. And it took me a while to kind of figure it out, but it's crazy to think about it now. For 3 years, I kind of wrestled. It's only been 3 years that I started to step into my skin, to pick out my bow ties that I only tie. I do not wear clip-ons. I only tie my bow ties. And then I finally got this space. And again, like I talked about with the kids, it's simple for them. So when I show up, they don't have questions, really. I had a coworker tell me once, they think it's amazing and profound that the kids don't tease me for dressing this way. And I told her, I don't think they do because they know my truth. Kids know. On an energetic level, they know. When you show up and you aren't showing who you are, they know. So if I would have showed up in a dress, then I would have had a kick me sign on the back of my back. But I didn't. And I was given this space and a chance to say yes to myself, and I've been able to thrive. Do you have any idea? I'm sure you do, with the burden of having to hide something that you're afraid of people to know. How hard and heavy that is, how draining and exhausting. For the 3 years of my life, this past 3 years, I've been able to thrive and to give people more and more grace, and now I'm learning in a tangible way what happens when you do that. Every single day in my job, I get this opportunity to be that bridge that I needed. And it's awesome because you get to see what happens when you do give that to kids. Like I said, it's us as adults that have failed them. We're telling them what they should do. But if you give them a space of grace, oh my goodness, the way they show up. They're respectful and honorable, and they hold this integrity, and they hold their heads held high. They carry themselves like they matter. And isn't that the point? To celebrate each other as if we're miracles and that we matter? I once had a school. At the end of this program, we have 10 weeks, and at the end of it, we celebrate all the kids. So everybody dances with everybody on stage. We show them off. We tell them to wear their best. And when I told them to do that, I had a little girl raise her hand. And she said, Miss Jem, I don't think I can wear a dress. I don't think I feel very comfortable doing that. And I said, you know what? That's okay. Because at the end of the day, this is my truth. This is how I feel the most comfortable. And you aren't going to be successful if you can't be your best self. So whatever that means for you, doesn't matter your gender, whatever you want to wear, that's your truth. That's how you need to show up. The kids left the class. A mom volunteer pulled me aside. She was not happy with what I said. She said, you know, I just really have to tell you I disagree with what you said. I said, well, that's fair. You're allowed. Why is that? She said, I think the girls look so nice when all of them have a dress up and they all look the same. And I said, you know, I really appreciate you feel that way. I do. However, I was that little girl, and I needed someone to be there for me, and I needed someone to hold that space so I could wrestle with my truth and figure out what that meant. Because again, we're all constantly evolving and learning what that truth is, right? In every circumstance and situation. But if we aren't given that space, that authentic space of grace, how are we supposed to find our truth if we're constantly afraid to show up? Think about the times when you go to a bar, or if you're at a happy hour, or you're doing something social, and when you leave there feeling kind of not so good, do you feel like you really showed up? Do you feel like you connected to people? Do you think you showed them your real truth? Or do you think you showed them who you think they needed to see to like you? What did you do? See, now what I've learned in this is that At the end of the day, we're all living from one of two emotions, fear or love. If you're living from fear, you have anxiety, you're nervous, you're afraid, you're defensive, right? You're kind of pushing back, you can't connect. But if you choose love, man, you connect and you feel this joy and you feel full. You see the way that we matter. And what I've learned is that if we live from love, we start to see how connected we really are and how there's no differences at all. Thank you.